Hello, this is Prep Station, and here's economics session. So I'll be giving you some tips on how to tackle economics in JAMB. So first thing is to be able to attempt questions in economics. You have to understand the concept. So with the understanding of the concept, you'll be able to tackle the questions appropriately. So I think one of the most frequent asked question in JAMB in economics is the theory of demand and supply. And I think to be able to tackle demand and questions on demand and supply, you have to have the understanding of demand and supply. So what is demand? Simply put, I can define demand as a want backed up by the desire to pay for it. So, and the supply is the willingness of either a producer, a supplier, or a seller to offer up a particular commodity, a particular quantity of commodity up for sale. So that differentiates between demand and supply. So, and there are equations that are popped up in economics, simple linear equations. So for you to be able to attempt simple linear equations, you should have the understanding of equations. What are equations? Equations are expression of a relationship that exists between two or more variables. In this context, the relationship between demand and supply. You have to understand that what brings demand and supply together is equilibrium. So what is equilibrium? In simple put, we can say equilibrium is a state of equality between two variables. What are the variables? Equality between demand and supply. So where you have your E equals quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So here we have in the economic context, you can define equilibrium as the price at which supply equals demand for a product. That is, the desire for a particular commodity equals the amount of a commodity that a producer or a seller or a supplier is willing to make available in the market. So, and we can, from equilibrium, we can bring out three concepts: equilibrium price, equilibrium position, and equilibrium quantity. So equilibrium price is that price at which quantity supplied equals quantity demand, while equilibrium position is the point where the quantity demanded curve cuts the quantity supply curve. Then you have the equilibrium quantity, that is that quantity whereby demand equals supply. So with that understanding, you should be able to tackle some simple linear equations that pops on in the theory of demand and supply. So what is a linear equation? A linear equation is an equation to the power of 1. That is, the highest power is 1. So if you see on the board here, we have quantity demanded equals 10 minus 2p, and quantity supplied equals 5 plus 12 and plus 3p. So you notice that in the quantity demand function, that a negative relationship exists between quantity demanded and price, which was birthed as a result of the law of demand. The law of demand states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, and the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded. As a rational consumer, of course, you will want to buy more of the commodity that has less price and buy less of the commodity that has a higher price, because every consumer is constrained by their income. Then for supply, we know that every producer or supplier wants to make more money. The aim and the goal of producing is to make profit. So with quantity supplied, the producer or the supplier or the seller, however you might have it, may be willing to offer more in the market, supply more in the market, make more available in the market when the price is high, because it is at that point he makes more profit. So, and in year 2017, they said given a function QD equals 10 minus 2p, while quantity and QS equals 5 plus 3p. If the price equals 1 naira, determine the equilibrium quantity. Here, you have been given the equilibrium price. We are asked to search for the equilibrium quantity. So you have to recall that equilibrium in economics is a situation whereby quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So you bring the two equations together and you equate quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So you bring the two, here you have 10 minus 2p equals 5 plus 3p. And the next thing you do is you collect your like terms. So what are the like terms? Whole numbers goes to whole numbers to one side, and the one with constants, variables comes to the other side. So 10 minus 5 will give you a 5, while 3p plus 2p will give you a 5p. So what do? The next thing is to divide through by the coefficient of p. What is the coefficient of p in this equation? Is 5. So you have your dividing both sides by the coefficient of p. So 5 strikes out 5, while p strikes 5p. Yeah, 5 strikes out 5. So you have, to the left side of the equation you have 1, and to the right side you have p standing alone. So it is not mathematical to leave your answer in that way, so you have to rearrange. So we put in the therefore sign to tell us what the equilibrium price is. And you will see I did this purposely to check with what the question gave us as equilibrium price, and you see that the equilibrium price is the same, 1. So the next thing is we search for the equilibrium quantity. So how do we do that? We put the value of p, we've gotten the equilibrium price, we put it in either of the equation. So we have two equations here. We have the quantity demanded equation and the quantity supplied equation. So I decide to solve for both so that to check that whatever equation you may choose to use will give you the same answer. So for the quantity demanded, you have 10 minus 2p, where the value of p is 1, and you slot in you put the value of p into the equation, and you have 2 multiplied by 1 will give you a 2. So you have your quantity demanded as 10 minus 2, which is 8. So using the second equation, which is the quantity supplied equation, you have your QS equals 5 plus 3p, where the value of p is 1. So imputing that into the equation, you have your 3 multiplied by 1, which will always give you a 3. And adding them, you have 8, which gives you your equilibrium quantity. So going back to the question, we have 8. So the appropriate answer for this question is option D, which is 8. So we go to the next question. Year 2018, we are given 2 equations, the quantity demanded equation and the quantity supplied equation. And we are asked to determine the equilibrium price. The previous one asked us to determine the equilibrium quantity. So now what we have to do is we have to go through the same procedure we used previously, that is equating the functions. So that is, you have your equilibrium equals quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So you have your 40 minus 4p as the equation 1, 12p minus 24 equals, which is your equation 2. So equating the both, you have 40 minus 4p equals 12 minus 24. So the next thing we do is, of course, collect like terms, which you have your whole number to the left side of the equation and your variable to the right side of the equation. However, you will still get your answer. But mind you, I chose this way because some people get confused with the signs. So I chose the easier way so that you will not get, because moving an equation from one side changes the sign automatically. So if you notice, 24 at the right side of the equation was minus 24. So when it changed, it switched to the other side, it became a positive. So, and the next step is you get your 40 plus 24 will give you a 64, and 12p plus 4p will give you a 16. Then the next thing to do is divide both sides by the coefficient of the p, which is 16. So, of course, when you divide your 64 by 16, you get 4 as your price. So that is your equilibrium price. So we have another question from 2019, and you have P equals 1 over 4 into bracket QS plus 10. When P is 10, what is the QS? So we are asked to look for the quantity supplied, and we are given the value for price, which is 10. So equating that in the equation, you have P equals 1 over 4 QS plus 10. So the next thing you do is you cross multiply. That is we multiply both sides by 4 or divide through both sides by 4. So when you do that, the 4 in the right side of the equation will dissolve automatically, will strike out. Then it will move to the left side of the equation. So where you have 4p equals qs plus 10. So then you make qs the subject of formula. You have your 4p. That is bringing out qs from the equation. So that is the 10 goes to the other side of the equation to join the 4p. So this is what we did here. So you have 4p minus 10. It was a positive 10, but changing side to the left side of the equation, it became a negative. So you have qs. Then the next thing to do is to impute the value for p. What is the value for p in the question? Is 10. So that way, we imputed the value for p, 4p, and 4, open bracket, 10, close bracket minus 10 equals qs. So when you multiply 4 by 10, you have 40, and you subtract 10 from 40. You have the value for your quantity supplied, which is 30. So looking at the question, the correct answer for this question is option A, which is 30. So then here we have another question from 2014. Given that quantity demanded equals 40 minus 2p and quantity supplied equals 6p plus 24. Calculate the equilibrium price. So you know what to do by equating the equations, the two functions. So we have 40 minus 2p equals 6p minus plus 24. Then you collect like times. Then you have your 40, 24, positive 24 crossing over to the other side, becoming a negative 24. Then a negative 2p crossing over to the right side to become a positive 2p. And that will give you 40 minus 24 will give you 16. And 6p plus 2 will give you 8. So dividing both sides by the coefficient of p, which is 8, will give you a 2. So the correct answer to this question is option C, which is 2. Then you have another one from year 2015, which asks us to find the equilibrium price. Using the appropriate formula by equating the two functions, you have 34 minus 2p equals 20 plus 5p. So collecting like terms, you have your positive 20 becoming a negative by crossing the equal to sign, while the negative 2p crossing the equal to sign to become a positive. Here, then you have your subtraction and your addition. Your subtraction at the left side of the equation, which will give you a 14, and your addition at the right side of the equation, which will give you a 7p. Then you divide both sides by the coefficient of p, which is 7, and which will give you a 2. Then the correct answer, the correct option for this question is option B, which is 2. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.